Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to the desktop for another rules breakdown. And this week I'm going to be covering Sorcerer from Adept Press, which came out in 2001. Now there's two things I need to go over before I actually go into the video itself. Firstly, as usual, I need to select a sample character that I'm going to use. And I'm going to use Harry Scarborough, an FBI agent. Now it mentions here that he's a sort of sample character like Fox and Scully from the X-Files, Agent Cooper from Twin Peaks, Kolchak from the old show Kolchak the Night Stalker, or Dean Corso from the Ninth Gate. So that's our sample character. But the other thing I need to go over is the dice. Now, Sorcerer can use any type of dice. D4s, D6s, D8s, D10s, D12s, D20s, D30s, D100s if you want. It doesn't matter. All it matters is that all of the dice are the same type, and everybody's rolling the same. So if you've got a skill of 3, then you're rolling 3 of a type of dice. Now I'm using D6s because it's going to be easy, because I've got a white set and a green set, to compare a character against the opposition for this sample. But that's the only reason I've chosen D6s. With D20s, you're not going to get as many dice which match up, and you're going to have often a clearer leader. D4s, obviously, you're going to get more often when multiple dice score the same. But it really doesn't matter. It's just the chances of probability go up with the higher dice, but there's no set target numbers or anything like that. So I'll just be using D6s in this video. Skills are dealt with on page 17 and page 100, so we're going to be doing a lot of flicking here. Now, on page 17, it details the basic operations of how to roll dice. Now, every roll in the game is an opposed test. So even if you're trying to do something simple like climb a wall, it's going to be decided against an opposed test. You're always rolling dice against one another. Now, everything as well depends on bonuses and penalties. It's a very descriptive system. So if you deliver a dramatic or appropriate quip while announcing the task, you gain 1 die. Announcing a task generically, e.g. I swing at him, -1 die. Repeating a simple task after failing, -1 die cumulative for each attempt. Especially clever version of the action, +2 dice. Especially stupid version of the action, -2 dice. The announced action moves the plot along significantly, +2 dice. Obstructive petty announced action, -2 dice. And these are all cumulative. So you can get quite high dice rolls by stacking on the bonuses for being extremely descriptive. Now, as I said, everything is opposed, even something like climbing. So let's have a look. Harry here has combat training, stamina 5. So for climbing a wall, I would say climbing over obstacles. We've all seen it in war films where they're in training. They're climbing over stuff. So he's going to be rolling 5 dice. Now, looking at the difficulties on page 100. Number of opposition dice. Typical easy task for this character. Automatic success, no roll needed. You get 0 opposition dice. A mildly annoying distraction, 1 opposition dice. Greater than 1, less than the character's score. It's trickier than usual. Equal to the character's score. It's a notably hard task for this character. If it's greater than the character's score, task is possible only through luck. And if it's flatly impossible, then you roll 0 dice, you just fail. So Harry's rolling his 5 dice. He's climbing up against something. He's got military training, so we're going to say it's very easy. He's rolling against 1 dice. So we roll a 3. Now it is entirely possible for Harry to still fail, even though he's rolling 5 dice. But we roll. And he gets 2 6s, a 3, a 2, and a 1. So Harry here succeeds because we can match up the dice highest to lowest. So he's got 2 6s, so one of his 6s matches up against 3, saying he succeeds. Now if the other one had rolled 2 dice, he would have still succeeded, because the 6 is higher than that. But he would have succeeded better, because that 6 is higher than that 3, so he'd have 2 net successes. The lower dice are just ignored when they're not matched up, because basically you're just ignoring your lower ones. Now, if you roll 2 dice which match as your highest, then you ignore them and you go down to the next. But the way it works is you're trying to get your highest dice higher than the opposition. Whoever gets the highest on their highest dice wins. If there's 2 6s, for example, then you go down to the next. But whoever gets the winner on the highest dice wins the task. Now, initiative's dealt with on page 103. And basically it explains that everybody states what they're doing, and then they roll for it. And whoever gets the most successes goes first. So Harry is going to shoot at somebody in combat. So he's got his combat training, he's got stamina of 5, so he's rolling his 5 dice. He rolls, he gets a 6, a 4, a 3, and 2 1s. Now, if Harry's got the only 6 in any dice rolls, then Harry's going first. Otherwise, we're going down to the next dice. So the top 2 are tied, so then we're comparing down, as we do with skills, to determine who gets the highest, and working from highest to lowest scores. So combat is dealt with on page 105. And it gives a sample of combat, but basically you're working the same way as your skill roll. So Harry rolled for his initiative, he rolled his combat roll, and we'll say that he's shooting at somebody and they're trying to get out of the way, and they have 3 dice on there. So they roll their 3 dice. Well, they get a 6, which matches up for initiative, and then a 3, so Harry goes first. But the way they match up as well means that Harry gets 1, 2 successes. So Harry got 2 net successes on his dice roll. So going to page 107, we can see damage types. Because basically damage is in dice penalties. So his 2 successes using a small handgun converts to 2 dice penalties for the next action and 2 lasting. So in their next action, they lose 4 dice off their dice rolls. And then they lose 2 until they eventually get healed. Now obviously as they receive more damage, they'll take any lasting damage and accumulate it. And they will lose more and more dice until basically they can't do anything. Now health is dealt with on page 108, 109. And basically it's all based around your stamina. So the opponent had taken 2 points of damage, but for the next round they lose 4. Well, they were only rolling 3 dice anyway for their dodge, their defense. So losing 4 dice off that leaves them -1. Well, obviously, by describing themselves in combat as doing something, they can get bonus dice, and that might allow them to actually roll something. The other way is to make a willpower roll, a will roll with no penalties against the number of dice they're trying to be able to use. So if they succeed by making a opposed willpower roll against the number of dice they're trying to roll with, then they get to roll their normal dice. But basically the penalties keep adding up until your character becomes useless. Lasting penalties though, less than or equal to your stamina, you've got skin broken, scraped, bruises needing bandages, ice packs, etc. Greater than your stamina, injured, you need stitches, slings, temporary crutches. Greater than 2 times your stamina, you've got bones exposed, hemorrhaging, guts hanging out, and you need intensive care. Now, going back to Harry, he's got a stamina of 5. So his 2 damage he's taken is just minor. He's got scrapes and that, if he'd received that damage. So advancement is dealt with on page 43, or 42. Experience. Stamina, will, lore, and cover are increased by successful humanity rolls against the score's current value. Improvement rolls are allowed after the conclusion of a storyline, not necessarily after every gaming session. The player may check the scores for improvements in any order, but if a point is gained, no more checks are allowed. Note, humanity itself has probably fluctuated up and down due to events during play. It is not checked at this time, see the following section. So your humanity goes up and down based on with the deals you've made with demons, the bad things you've been forced to do to keep the demon happy, and gone up again because of heroic acts you've done and succeeding in adventures. But for this example, we'll just use humanity as on here. So he's got a humanity of 4. So let's test, first of all, his humanity 4 against his stamina. It's his highest one, so it's least likely to succeed. But getting his stamina up to 6 will be absolutely fantastic. So his humanity roll, there's a 6 and 3 3s. And his stamina roll, well, it's got a 5, 2 4s, a 3 and a 1. So the 6 is higher than the 5, so succeeds in the humanity. So his stamina actually goes up to 6. But if it had failed, then he could have rolled his will or his cover at 3 or even his law at 2. His law at 2 obviously would be least likely to be able to beat the humanity, so most likely to be improved. So your low stats will improve more easily than the others. But it's probably worth trying your highest ones first, because getting a stamina up to 6, for example, is going to be a real benefit to the character. So that is a very brief look at Sorcerer. Now obviously I've skipped through all the sorcery rules because they're outside the scope of these standard rules breakdowns. But it's an interesting system. I like the way that you can choose the dice. Obviously I've just been using d6s in this, but you can change the dice per roll, or everybody can just settle on one kind of dice and have them constantly. But you can have a lot of fluctuation in dice rolls by having d20s. Obviously with d6s, you're matching up a lot more. It's an incredibly flexible system and incredibly interesting. And the advancement system's quite interesting in that you can gamble to increase things way outside the scope, but you're only allowed to increase one thing per time. But anyway, I've whittled on for quite long enough, so thank you very, very much for watching. But most of all, as usual, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.